Today we're going to be making ancient Egyptian Sphinx out of clay. The first thing you're going to need is to grab your Sharpie, your piece of magazine paper, and place your name on it so that we know to whom the Sphinx belongs. Once you've done that, we'll be ready to go. All right, we're going to grab our clay. We've got our needlepoint tool. The first thing we're going to do to create our Sphinx is the body. Then we'll be making the head, the four legs, and the tail. The very last step is, of course, to use our needlepoint tool, very carefully, of course, to add the details to the face of the Sphinx, add his toenails, and some texture here on his headpiece. So we're going to take and make a series of tubes. I'm going to roll them out, make the body a nice rounded oval. Okay, sort of about like this. It's about the size of my finger. Set it down. We can rework the shape as we go. The next thing you'll do is, using both hands, roll out a head for our Sphinx. So now we've got our head, our body. The next thing we'll need, of course, are the four legs. And we're going to make, again, we're going to roll out some small coils. And you notice how I'm rolling and then kind of squishing them so they don't get too thin. About the size of half of my finger. I'm going to make four of them kind of quickly. You of course, can take a little more time with this. Rolling out four. Now for the back legs, you're going to have a little bit more of the Sphinx's legs showing all the way up the side here onto his backside. And so we want to add an additional two pieces, about half of what we just did for the legs. So we're going to make two of these. And I'll show you how we're going to attach those two pieces. So now we have everything except a long skinny coil that will create the tail. And you can lay it on the table as well. Just be sure it doesn't get too thin. That's about right. Okay, so we've got this. We're ready to go. The biggest thing to remember today is to scratch before you attach. We cannot just take the head and sit it on here. Before you do go ahead and place the head on here and start working the shape, however, I recommend that you take, and if you want to create with just a little bit of clay, this mantelpiece, you can go ahead and do that, kind of a flat piece like this. You notice how I'm kind of pinching it, again, not allowing it to get too thin. And then we can place it on here by scratching. How many of you remember scratching? It's like making little tiny teeth. You don't want them to be too deep, though. We're not placing big gouges in the clay. Scratching the other piece. And because this clay is so damp and moist, we don't need any water today. So we're going to just attach like so. Now again, this is the piece that is going to create this mantelpiece that the Sphinx is wearing. So you can go ahead and do a little bit of texture by just placing some little dashes there. Now we're ready to put the head on. I'm going to scratch, again, the top. Scratch, scratch. This is actually, the technical term is scoring the clay, but we're calling it scratching. You can make cross hatches back and forth, kind of like hashtags, and go ahead and place it on. And you don't just set it on, but actually place it on, and you can smooth it together to ensure that it's nice and tightly connected. Now we want it to be a little bit flatter. We don't want it super round, so I'm gonna flatten it by just squeezing it. You notice how the original shape is a circle or a sphere, but now I'm beginning to flatten it. And take a little bit more clay and make the headpiece around him by, again, just flattening it. And don't forget, scratch before you attach. And we'll scratch by just doing some little dashes, little teeth here before we attach. Again, this will take a little bit of time just to shape it around and make sure that it's really attached well. I'm just beginning this process. Okay, we're going to fast forward quickly so you can get started in just a moment, scratching and attaching around here and extending these pieces down, shaping this around. And then let me just show you the back part. You're going to attach a leg here and here, taking the larger pieces, scratching, and taking and attaching. And then you can attach, smooth it together, and then reshape it and bring it forward for his front paw. Does that make sense? Don't let it get too thin. This back leg is going to use first this tiny piece that we made, and then we're going to attach that for his upper leg and then attach the lower. Again, I'm doing this quickly. Please take your time, as you want to make sure that you don't forget to scratch and attach, otherwise the clay will simply separate and you'll have a very broken Sphinx. So let's go ahead and attach. I can smooth that together and shape the leg just like you would Play-Doh or anything else. Smooth it together and connect it. You can extend this out. If it's too long, break it off or use your tool and cut it off. I'm going to flatten it. So now we have one side. You're going to repeat the same process on the back. And the last step is, of course, to scratch and attach your, let me scratch the tail. Scratch and attach the tail. You can loop it around however you want. If that's too long, break it off. And done. Final step, add his beautiful face in, perhaps a beard, and you're done. Ready? Let's do it.